Since the early 1900s, homosexuality was frowned upon by society. Even during present day, people are still discriminated for being homosexual. We have not yet reached full equality around the world, but the discrimination is dying down as time passes. Today, we will take a deeper look into the past and see how we as a country have changed our view about homosexuality. From 1950 to 1960, in Canada, it was illegal to be gay or a lesbian, and you're also considered a threat to national security, which if you think nowadays is outrageous, because how could someone or two people be a threat to national security, which all they're doing is just between each other. It doesn't really affect anyone else but them. In 1965, Everett Clifford, a Northwest Territories mechanic, tells the police that he is gay and has had sexual relations with men over a 24-year period. Clifford is sentenced to prison indefinitely as a dangerous sex offender, a sentence which is backed up by the Supreme Court of Canada. In 1967, Pierre Trudeau proposes amendments to the Criminal Code, which would relax the laws against homosexuality. Trudeau feels that the government doesn't belong in the bedroom of Canadians, and it doesn't concern the Criminal Code. This is a step forward in making being homosexual legal here in Canada.
On homosexuality, I think the view we take here is that there's no place for the state in the bedrooms of the nation, and I think that what's done in private between adults doesn't concern the criminal code. When it becomes public, this is a different matter.
In 1969, homosexuality was finally decriminalized after Trudeau's amendments passed into the Criminal Code. After homosexuality was decriminalized, Everett Clifford was released from prison because being homosexual was no longer a crime in Canada.
The Toronto Gay Action, also known as TGA, showed a list to the government stating all legal rights for homosexuals which currently exist for heterosexuals. Quebec is the first province to pass civil gay rights law. The Human Rights Code made it illegal to discriminate against gays. This was a huge step for homosexual rights because every province except PEI, Alberta, and Northwest Territories has taken the step into changing the laws related to sexual orientation. Bill C-242 is introduced to the House of Commons, which had sexual orientation into the Canadian Human Rights Act, but did not pass. As you can see, the government is still not accepting homosexuality in our country. The Parliamentary Committee on Equality Rights releases a report titled Equality for All. The committee recommends that the Canadian Human Rights Act be changed to make it illegal to discriminate based on sexual orientation. Delwyn Vrend, who is a lab instructor in Edmonton, Alberta, is fired from his job because he is gay. And since sexual orientation isn't covered by the Alberta Individual Rights Protection Act, the Human Rights Commission refused to investigate in the case. In 1994, Vrend took the government to court and was ruled that sexual orientation should be in the act, but was overturned in 1996 by the government. The federal court lifts a country ban on homosexuals in the military, allowing gays and lesbians to serve in the armed forces. The federal government passes Bill C-33, which adds sexual orientation to the Canadian Human Rights Act.
On February 1st, 2005, Prime Minister Paul Martin introduces the Same-Sex Marriage Bill into the House of Commons. If the bill was passed, it would give married same-sex partners the same legal recognition as other married couples in Canada. On July 20th, 2005, Bill C-38, which is also known as the Same-Sex Marriage Bill, receives royal assent and becomes a law, which allows same-sex couples to legally marry each other. Equality for homosexuals in 2030 present day is quite better than before, now that same-sex marriage is legal in Canada and it is also not a crime to be homosexual. Many same-sex couples from other countries move to Canada just so they can get married. Not all countries are accepting of the homosexuals, which is still a problem for many people today. It is still hard for some same-sex couples to be treated equally because of the judgment they get from other people. But people fail to realize that they're just human beings, just like them. One of the biggest concerns arising for people today are Russia's anti-gay laws, especially since the Olympics in 2014 will be held there. Russia has introduced a bill that stigmatizes gay people and bans giving children any information about homosexuality. This bill passed in Russia with a vote of 436 to 0. That number is just shocking. Every single person voted for this bill. By just looking at these votes, we can see that Russia isn't a country that accepts homosexuals. After these anti-gay bills were passed, it brought up a lot of concern, mostly regarding the Olympics and how that would work. Russia made no progress towards homosexuality, equality, and doesn't look like they're going to change anytime soon. Even though Russia decriminalized homosexuality in 1993, that has no meaning to the Russian government. The International Olympic Committee does not have the authority to intervene in Russia's law banning gay propaganda, and is convinced there will be no discrimination against athletes or spectators in the Olympics, which means that the Olympics will go on in Russia. As a world, we are quite behind in equality. As we go forward in time, we hope that homosexuals gain more equality and that they are treated the same as the rest of us. This also goes for women, immigrants, and First Nations. This may take some time, but people will eventually become more accepting of each other, and everything else won't matter.